We live in a sea of toxins. It's in the air we breathe, whether we're inside or outside. It's in the tap water that we drink. Actually, it's in the water bottles we drink too, because it leaches out of the plastic from that. It's what we put on ourselves. It's what we put on our skin. It's in our food. It's on our food.
It's even in our soil.
And it's even on pills.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
It's like on the coating of the pills many times. So, and the colorings, all the artificial colorings and flavors and there. Any way we could just go on and on about it. But how do we deal with this?
Well, that's a really good question, because that's the bottom line. You know, we've polluted everything, so now how do we get rid of it? And a lot of it is about not continuing to pollute, for sure, but it's also about doing what's smart. And there was a doctor, his name is Michael Smith, who writes for Life Extension, and they put some really good stuff out that I'd like to just share with you. Basically, what Michael Smith is doing is he's telling us that there are things that we can avoid that will help us to keep from getting polluted, and there are things that we can do that are in our diet as well as in our lifestyle that make a big difference in how our body handles things.
Well, in other words, we can eat organic food because that doesn't have all the pesticides on it, and we know that those are toxic and poisonous.
Right. We can wash the food, and it can just be with plain tap water. That works pretty well to get stuff off. Or we can take the peelings off of fruit or the peelings off the outer...
Except for those are healthy.
Well, they're healthy for us, but, I mean, it's probably less not healthy overall if you got all those toxic things on them.
And then we have to be careful what we put on our skin and wash our hair with, brush our teeth with, all those things. They're all loaded with toxins.
Well, all that stuff you're an expert on. And if you go to Vicky's Corner on drsabuto.com, you'll see that she has a list of healthy household products and healthy skin products and skincare products. That'd be very useful, because if you use those, you'll be safe. There are probably about 70,000 industrial chemicals that have come out in the last 50 years, and probably another 1,000 come out every year. The Environmental Protection Agency did a study and showed that all of us have at least 700 of these compounds in our body, most of them stored in our fat. So we've become really polluted.
That's why it's good to exercise and perspire and get those to come out.
That's how we detox.
Sweat it out.
Exactly. I mean, just think of a baby drinking mother's milk. You would think that that would be something that's really safe. Well, if the EPA had to evaluate mother's milk today, they'd ban it, saying that there are too many toxins in it that are unhealthy for our kids.
And yet, it's still healthier than drinking cow's milk for a baby.
It's a mixed bag for sure.
Yeah.
Well, what can you do? What kinds of things can you avoid that will help lower your exposure to these 700 things that are in our bodies? We've got things like volatile organic chemicals that are found in a lot of the things that we're exposed to.
Like air freshener and carpet cleaners and
paints. You know, in our office we make sure, in our home, we make sure we have low VOC paints, because these volatile organic chemicals are definitely toxic.
And you know, it's not even much more to pay for it. It's something like $3 a can more or something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah. And disinfectants. And there's the good news is that there are a lot of substitutes that you can use for these things.
Exactly. So you don't have to expose yourself to them.
Yeah, they're there.
You can avoid things that have BPA in them, all the plastics, the flexible plastics that are a problem. And keep those from being in your system.
Store things in glass or Pyrex, you know, Corningware.
And don't put anything plastic in the microwave. That's a way to really get a lot of it.
I wouldn't even want to use the microwave.
Right. And I'd stay away from processed foods, because I think processed foods are a source of lots of food that has been destroyed by the heat, the pasteurization process. It takes away a lot of the chemicals that are made, like enzymes, that are destroyed by the time we eat them.
And many times it produces toxins just from the heat, from the high temperature. We've heard that too, also when you barbecue things.
Well, that's where you get those toxins that cause cancer. So you have to stay away from the black stuff that's got the nitrosamines in it. And the other thing that Michael Smith talked about was some of the nutrients that we can use to detox too. And it's really important. Things like garlic. We should all be consuming fresh garlic best, because it has a lot of sulfur in it that helps us make the antioxidant glutathione, which is the most important intracellular antioxidant in the human body. And when we're low in glutathione, it usually means that our resistance is really low and we're prone to the effects of aging at the speed of light.
And broccoli's another good one.
All the cruciferous
Put some
vegetables.
garlic on your
broccoli. Exactly. It has sulfur in it as well that helps to make things that keep us from having problems with endocrine toxicities that can lead to a lot of cancers like breast cancer, prostate cancer, colon cancer, ovarian cancer.
I'm going to throw one at you. What about red wine? That has a lot of that has sulfur.
It does, but that's right, and that's okay. If you have too much of it, it's a problem. But like everything, there's moderation's the answer. And then there are things like chlorophyll. Last week we talked in one of the videos that we do, one of the shows that we did, about how chlorophyll can bind toxins in the intestinal tract and actually lower your risk for developing cancer. So you want to eat your greens, and if you know you're exposed to toxins, you may want to even add a little chlorophyll in the form of 100 milligrams 2 or 3 times a day, so long as you're not really exposed to excessive amounts of toxins that are really high.
And then what about milk thistle?
Milk thistle is the same thing as silymarin. It's one of the powerful kinds of botanicals that we have that help our body detoxify better. And what they do specifically is they speed up the detoxification process of one of 2 phases of liver detoxification. So if you're having a problem with a lot of exposure to toxins, you're probably going to want to take a little milk thistle to try and speed that process up so that you're not toxic from it. There are a lot of polyphenols in it, and there are a lot of polyphenols in fruits and vegetables that we should be consuming. So when we look at the things that you can do to prevent all these toxic exposures, what you eat and what you're exposed to, and reducing that as much as possible is huge.
And I think also to add to the exercise and the healthy diet would be getting enough sleep.
Absolutely. If you don't get enough sleep, everything goes haywire.
And drinking good, pure water to wash those toxins out.
Exactly. And make sure it's water that's been treated in some special way, because the water that we get from our public water supply is like what I would call dead water. You want to look at some of the work that Dr. Beverly Rubik has done. It's on our site. If you go to Beverly, just put her name in there, R-U-B-I-K, you'll see lots of information about water. And what she talks about is how you can first split water into acid and alkaline parts, because you don't want the acidity of the water in your body. You'd rather have the alkalinization, because your body's enzymes all work better in an alkaline pH. She also says that what they can do with these water purification systems is make small clusters of water, because water is a polar molecule, and it tends to form clusters of different sizes that might be 1 or 2 molecules all the way up to maybe 18 or even more. And a cell is not just a sack full of water. It's got certain places where water molecules need to go, and it's based on their size that determines whether or not they can get there. So all these things that we can do that are practical, straightforward, and easy can do a lot to prevent the sea of toxins that we live in from poisoning us, aging us too fast, and making life so that we have too many diseases.